Hello everyone, my name is Sarah. My day job is a cosmologist, so I spend my days researching the universe. I am based in London. I specialize in the first billion years of the universe and supermassive black holes in particular. But my main hobby, I would say probably my only hobby, is to play games by night. So I thought I would combine the two and show some commentary on space games. This is my first time doing a stream or a video on YouTube. I am starting to wonder if I'm really brave enough to put myself out there. Not particularly confident. So I apologize for the shitty quality of my commentary and the video stream. It will probably get better as I ease into it. But anyway, to start us off tonight, I will be playing Surviving Mars. This is a survival game based around constructing a settlement on Mars. So trying to show what it would be like and the kind of challenges that people might face in a sort of SimCity-like simulation. Now I heard about this game from some random article on the net. Actually, I've already played it once on easy mode, and I thought, so I got a bit of a feel for what it's supposed to be like, but it was not particularly difficult. So I think I will try to do a playthrough on a super hard mode, so that should be entertaining, since I will probably fail miserably. And hopefully I will comment on how realistic one or the other aspect of this is. Alright, so we start here. Let's make a new game. So the premise of this game is that somehow you have secured funding enough to start going to Mars, and the only thing that you really need are at least one rocket, people willing to be the pioneers of this doomed mission, and hopefully some materials at least at the start. So I think that the end goal is to make your community on Mars entirely self-sustained, so really start a community that's independent from Earth, so you don't have to keep shipping things back and forth. But at the very start, it starts you off with various materials that you can pick. So the difficulty here is mostly set by how you got the funding to go to Mars. So of course, it is quite realistic that if you had an international case like the easiest mode, if all the countries on Earth really decided to put all their money together and have a 30 billion, as this description says, and 4 rockets, indeed colonizing Mars will probably be already doable by now. Now the main problem with the colonization of Mars in reality is exactly this. So we could probably do it if we all put our money together, but everyone's trying to race each other a bit. I think China said they wanted to be the first to do it, so they're high up on the list, clearly. The US is up there, and the Blue Sun Corporation, which in my mind this is a bit like Elon Musk's SpaceX. An individual corporation could do it almost as well or better than some countries. It's really down to how much funding you have. But there's also some options here to do it with minimal funding. So in the hardest case, only 4 billion. Or in Russia's case, a bit more money, but you have a drawback that all your rockets are really slow. Which is a bit of a jab at Russia there. I don't think they would be much worse off than India or Europe in reality, or in this particularly eccentric case, just doing it with church funds, which is quite exciting too. But I'm gonna go with the hardest, I think, just for fun. Right. Let's do this again. This is 120. Yeah, this is definitely the hardest one. But all these profiles that you choose still have perks and stuff. So in this one, I think you're a bit more effective at research if you're doing it as a independent company, because I guess you're less held back by the organization of the government. So we have a commander profile with some perks as well. So I think I'm just gonna use the hardest one again, just to see how long I can make it last for. So this one seems to be the hardest. Futurist gives us a boost to research. Although I guess that's not really a drawback, but I guess it's a less good boost compared to all the other ones. Whatever, that sounds okay. Let's pick. Perfect. This is a great logo for a colony that's completely doomed. I actually haven't unlocked any of these mysteries before, so I don't know what they do. I don't want to read the descriptions. Let's pick a random one, and let's leave it like this. Alright. So the first thing you have to decide is what to name your rocket. This is an extremely important thing, and I'm gonna call it Rocket. That's a good name. The funding is already decided by the difficulty setting, and then we can choose what to take with us. So things that we cannot build from scratch. So I think in the premise of this game, we are setting off for Mars before we know how to build some of this stuff. So we have this amazing tech, like Stirling generators, which are basically arc reactors on steroids, and moisture vaporizers that can extract moisture from the air itself. But in the world of this game, I guess we are setting off without knowing how to build them from scratch on Mars. So we can only take them prefab. So I guess that might be the case if we're buying them from some company. So here we can spend 200 million to have some pre-made pieces of things that we can just assemble on Mars. So this is decent, considering that we won't be able to build any of these things. I think I'm gonna go with the default. I can't be bothered spending too much time. All of these are things that we will need in order to build any sort of structure on Mars. So these are things that we cannot get from the environment, and these three here, we're not taking any. It's because we already know we can hopefully get them if we're efficient and we don't die by then. So I really like the detail in this game. It's like, for instance, it lets you pick what area of Mars to land on. So you have all these different possible landing sites. And again, it's affecting the difficulty. So you have resources that presumably you can scan from orbit, and we can actually do this. We can locate what part of the planet have what. This is something that we have already pretty much mapped. So we have satellites orbiting Mars, actually quite a few of them currently monitoring the surface. And by looking at how light reflects off the surface and combining that with the robots that have actually tested this to be sure that we can link light reflection and actual composition, we actually have a similar map to this. I think knowing these things is quite realistic, and all these threats which are linked to weather, most of them, so meteors, space weather, then dust devils, dust storms, and cold waves. These are things that we have been monitoring on Mars for a long time too, so I guess you would know what the weather is like reasonably accurately, and you'd be able to forecast these in general. This mission is going to take place over many, many years. And then resources. So, what is hard? Right. This seems like the hardest one, so let's see. It's lacking in concrete, and that's going to be difficult. And the threats are not that bad. I guess you can pick a place out in the middle of nowhere, if you really want to spend time picking the exact location you would like to, or you can make it even harder like this. But I think having one of any resource makes it beyond hard. It might actually make it impossible. So I'm going to go back to the predetermined location that was, here we go. Topology rough, that means that the terrain will not be flat. It will be quite hard to find locations flat enough to build anything on them. So that's going to be hard if we want to connect things like a power grid to a dome to have people live in, gathering water. All of that has to be more or less flat. And of course, if it's not flat, it will be more exposed to the elements as well. So that's not great. But anyway, let's see how long we can survive on Mars with minimum resources, but just enough to make it. So again, I've played this game on easy, which is supposed to simulate what it would be like if all the countries on Earth got together and we had all the rockets together, 5 rockets. And in that case, it's actually pretty easy. So I think it does a good job of making you feel like it's possible. Now, if you do it with not enough preparation, like some companies on Earth have suggested a bit overly ambitious plans in recent years. So we had Mars 1, which was trying to do this with very little funding. So I think this is more similar to what would happen to them without appropriate funding or resources. Alright, so this is the area we've picked. So we have 2 of these orbital probes. So that lets us find what resources are where very precisely. So these are like zoom-in studies of one particular area. So currently we have this square that is revealed. We have what is this? Concrete, some mysterious, interesting scientific thing, and some rare metals. So, but we can use these to explore other sectors. So let's expand a bit. So we found another thing of scientific interest over here, and we found a bunch of water, so that's useful. So these parts are not buildable, they're way too not flat. No. So that's not gonna work. But let's try exploring to the left. And we have found 3 anomalies, so that's more than I thought was possible to find. So I'm not really sure what these do. I think there are areas of high scientific interest. But anyway, let's land our rocket somewhere where we can access as many of these things as possible. So we have one small bit of concrete here, one larger bit of concrete over there. We don't really need this. We have some rare metals within reach, and the water is all the way over there, so that's going to be a bit difficult. But I think if we build it here, from what I saw playing this on easy, it's a lot about planning and positioning where you want all your buildings to be, because the further away things are that you have to bring to where the people are going to eventually live, the more it's likely to be destroyed by the elements and such. So for now I'm gonna land here. Right. So I think my overall plan is gonna be to gather resources in this area and then eventually build a dome with people over here. So it's gonna be the first dome that we build, just in range of these rare metals. No, that's not rare metal, that's just casual, that's just normal metals. No, that's okay. Then we can gather all of these within range of the rocket, because we have these here drones. Oh, these little guys. And what these are going to do is they're automated AIs, so they're going to unload the rocket at the moment, and they're going to start gathering metals. So I was asking myself about the time scale of this. So it's divided into 3 phases. So there's the prep phase, where we're going to basically, using only these AIs, build already a dome that people can inhabit with an atmosphere and water and so on. So by the time the people arrive, they have something to do and they have somewhere to live. Because if we just send people now, then well, that wouldn't work, because they would just have as much water and oxygen as they can carry and no way to get more. So they wouldn't have the time to build, say, an oxygen plant before all of their own resources run out. So that's why we're sending these little guys to do all these things for us by the time we arrive. So I'm gonna give them a depot here so they can start unloading the rocket. And let's start building a power plant. So if this is gonna be the concrete, I'm gonna need power for these things and also the domes. I'm gonna build the power plant all the way over here. So I'm gonna try to make... Alright, so let's get some solar panels. So we have some options for energy here, which are all reasonably realistic. So we have a wind turbine, which will only work if there's wind, and some solar panels with different advantages. So if you're in an area with a lot of wind, obviously the wind is going to be better, and they're also a bit more resilient. So the solar panels are going to be contaminated by Martian dust, which is a big problem that we have found, even when we send big drones currently on Mars, is that all this dust gets in everything. So actually a big part of this game will be as soon as these are built, they're going to start filling with dust, and I have to spend a lot of resources just keeping it up. Which kind of makes you wonder why we would bother going to Mars in the first place. I mean, it's a decent question. Like, why do we even bother setting up a colony in a place that's obviously so hostile, and all these things are going to break with no easy way to repair them? I think it's definitely worth it. It's interesting how we think of going to Mars before going to places that are equally hostile on Earth. So if you think of a place that's equally lacking in life support on Earth, it would be like trying to set up a living dome with all the necessities in it, like somewhere like Antarctica. Why would we do that? When you could just live very happily in a city locally. That's a very good question. That's the whole point of the funding system in this game. That if all the nations together think it is interesting and just worth doing for its own sake, then it will be quite easy to do. But then not all countries agree on that. That's why we haven't done it yet, I assume. And that's why in a situation like this one, we are actually doing it for profit. So, because it turns out that once the colony is set up, and we can just harvest all the rare materials on Mars and send them back to Earth, which materials that don't even exist on Earth. So we have, for example, all these rare metals and these science anomalies. Speaking of which, I think I have right. So these drones. This drone is an explorer drone, so its job is to do science, I guess. And this other drone is controlling how far the smaller drones can travel to. So what I'm doing here is building some batteries, because the problem with solar panels, as you can see, is that they turn off at night, which is not great. So if you want to use the power during the night, which we will need to, when eventually we have people living here, obviously they need electricity at night as well, so we need some sort of storage. Another thing I'm gonna get is recharge stations for the drones, so that they can get their power from somewhere. Alright. Right, so let's speed up time a bit. So we see that these drones are now busy gathering these metals and bringing it.
On-site data validates our predictive models of the electrically charged dust devils.
Okay, okay. I think I already have a good working model on the behavior of these peculiar weather anomalies. Now we can refine this model even further. With the current expedition complete, we can confirm the theory that anyone will ever cease to reverse. Alright. So now we understand why dust storms happen on Mars. That won't stop them from happening. But hey, science. Maybe one day we will know how to stop them. Right. Yeah, again, a big part of this, look, as I said, we have set off to Mars in this scenario with a lot of technology missing. So there's a lot of things that we cannot build, we have to take prefab from Earth, so that's not great. These are some of them. Let's see. Increase cargo. Probably don't need it. New building, better farm. None of these are particularly useful at the moment. We've been quite unlucky with the starting text. This is actually a bit randomized every time. I think I'm going to speed up construction. We'll see how that goes. And once every day or so, you get to... oh, that was a meteor. Oh no. Oh, they were not joking. There's meteor impacts everywhere. Right, so I was wondering about the timeline of this game, because so this whole preparation phase would take a very long time in reality. You can't build all these things in a day. And at the current speed that the rovers we currently have on Mars move, I think a day would be about a year, roughly speaking. So I think that's...
Anomaly analyzed.
There's more to the barren environs of the red planet than meets the eye. A veritable treasure trove of undiscovered knowledge and wonder. So long as you know where to look.
I get it. Oh, cool. So we have advanced research. For some reason we found a very cool rock on Mars, and now we're gonna get a lot more applicants willing to sacrifice their lives to attempt to live over here. Right, then let's add some power cables. Alright, I should add storage as well. Alright, so we should start gathering some resources from the surface as soon as I'm confident that the batteries are all connected and running. So I don't know why these drones are not very keen on building these batteries. Ah, no concrete. Okay, that's my fault. So concrete is one of the things we can extract easily. Alright, so we have enough materials to build it. So we've taken prefabs. Now all that our drones need to do is assemble these compared to following a diagram. So as I was saying, the drones we currently have at the moment that can survive on the surface of Mars are much slower than this. So they're very slow. I think assembling something like this would take months at least. And we'll keep getting hit by stuff. Alright, so let's give this concrete extractor cable. So could you actually extract concrete from Mars? That's a decent question. So what is... Alright, that's right. So we had this... we had examined that one, and we can keep traveling. Alright, so we need power during the day to finish, to power the concrete extractor, and then with the concrete we can build these things. That all makes sense. Alright. Sensor tower. Alright. This will warn us of disasters, which seems pretty useful, so we do need one of these. What more do we need urgently? Not much. We need a dumping site. There we go, a dumping site over here. And let's add a concrete depot for the concrete extractor. Alright, so for a long time we didn't think there would be concrete on Mars. So I think it was quite a surprise when we did find it. Well, what is concrete? You don't just find concrete in the floor. So concrete is a mix, I think. So you need a basic rock like limestone. On Earth it's usually limestone, or I think you can make concrete out of seashells and the like. Then you mix it with some gravel and some sand, and with a lot of water you get the magic of concrete. It's actually not a chemical thing. It is something you can extract from the floor. Concrete is just a special type of rock that's very easy and malleable. As soon as you mix it with water, you can change the shape of it very easily. Which is something that is quite weird if you think about it. Because we think of concrete as this very like industrial material. Like it's not very pleasant when we see a building made out of concrete. We think it's unnatural, but actually, it's just rock. It's not treated with any dangerous chemicals or anything. It's a material that's been around for absolute millennia. So all you need to do really is extract it from the floor. It's a powder. It will probably be deeper down than is shown here, but it's not inconceivable. Also, you could probably assemble something like this, like a basic concrete extractor from prefab stuff. So that's not too bad. The one thing that is realistic.
There's more to the barren environs of the red planet than meets
Yes,
the eye.
yes, I've got this one before. Cool, cool, cool. Cheaper things. Oh, cool. Money. Yeah. Okay, so we can research that next. What was I saying? Yes, concrete. Not as a natural
Sector scan.
as we might think.
Anomaly found. Select a sector to scan.
Alright, let's keep exploring. We keep finding these anomalies. I got only one in my previous playthrough. It's very exciting. Alright, so let's scan there. That's a thing. I don't know. Yeah, one thing that isn't realistic with concrete in this game is that we're gonna be able to use it straight away to make these batteries, right? 'Cause it's the only thing they require. I think the reason they were not being built is because they require concrete. But actually you need quite a lot of water to mix in with the concrete powder that you extract in order to actually change the shape of the concrete. That's the whole point. It's changeable underwater, because it's a very basic compound on its own, so it's the opposite of acidic. It's only when you mix it with something neutral that you can start rearranging it. So tons and tons of water, which is
battery low.
not something that we're gonna need in this game. I guess this guy is low battery. Yeah. Alright. So we have finished building one of these generators. I'm gonna add power cables. Of course, nothing works at night yet because we still don't have these batteries. So I guess we have started extracting concrete. We've got concrete. Success. And it should be going in the concrete depot. Right, so now these have turned off and everything is gonna stop because we don't have the batteries yet. So it is a bit slow. I should have probably connected this to the concrete extractor straight away. We just lost time.
That we found iridium-rich sulfides.
Iridium-rich
That's a real rarity
sulfides?
on Earth.
Wow! Free energy for everyone. Okay, that doesn't sound particularly realistic. Hey, who knows? Iridium sulfide. Wonderful. And we found more water over here. This is great. Right, so the way this works in terms of the expansion range is that we always need to be within radio contact of the AIs. Even when you have when you're gonna have colonists later, it's important that everything stays in
Select a sector to scan.
Stays in radio range. So currently this is broadcasting radio over here, and we have this little guy broadcasting radio around itself. There. Then we can build these drone hubs. It kept recommending to me. I actually didn't have enough money to take any of them, so that will have to do. Alright, so this guy needs to charge. Let's make him charge. Let's hope he gets there. Alright, so there's no penalty really in this early stage of drone-only colonization. You can take as long as you need. I mean, as long as you're managing to build a robust infrastructure for when the humans actually get there, it's not too bad. The only things we really need to worry about is refueling the rocket. In this scenario, we only have one rocket, so it's going to have to go back and forth between the Earth and stuff, which is not great. So if we want to bring people, we're going to have to refuel it. We're going to have to make fuel and send it back. Right, so in this game you can, I think, make fuel. How do we make fuel? There is this fuel refinery. Right, and I pre-packed one, but it just turns water into fuel with electricity. So I guess it's some sort of hydrogen-based fuel, and you're just using electricity to separate water into oxygen and hydrogen, because then you can supercool these, which you can do with more electricity. And when you have oxygen and hydrogen in their liquid forms, that can be used as a fuel. So that's not too unrealistic either. So this is going to be used to fuel the rockets. So I think I'm going to position it to... This is going to need water, so I have to extract water from the atmosphere. I think that's going to be my water farm over here. So I'm going to place this kind of in the middle, kind of here. I think this will be fine. I put it in the wrong way around. Oh well. Right, so let's see how the batteries are doing. So you can actually monitor all the demand and stuff, and how much energy is being stored per hour. You have to be really careful how you manage it. But I think the 2 batteries might not be enough in the long run. So I'm gonna connect this, and I'm gonna add more batteries. So all these are doing is storing the power that's being made by this stuff for future use. This needs power as well. And we need to extract water. So there is a water thing over here, but I decided that concrete was more important. So I've built this here so that the water is unfortunately just out of range. But this concrete is just in range, so it's a bit difficult. I think the power is a bit too far to go there, so that's only going to serve to my dome, because I'm going to build a dome over here, and then the water can come from there when the rocket lands again. So that's further in the future. I think for now, we are going to extract moisture directly from the air. So if we have our water harvesting on the left, that is good, and the pipes are going to go out the top. Right, there we go. That's a reasonably realistic thing too. I think it's not very hard to extract water from the atmosphere. It just takes a bit of distillery magic and some power. And so far none of these things are terribly unrealistic. I think it would have been impossible to build these batteries, well, within the game logic. Because you really need water to mix with your concrete, and if you want water you have to build this guy first. And yeah, so it would have taken even longer, I think, in real life. But so far, it's not outrageously impossible. Yeah, now as I was saying, there's no downside to taking very long in the first stage. So I think when people eventually colonize Mars, this preparation phase will take absolutely ages. I wouldn't be surprised if it took literally 10 to 15 years. Just making sure that all these things are already there, and make sure we understand the rate of impacts of meteors in the area, all the things that can go wrong, all the technical problems that happen to all this machinery. Simply because when the humans are there, only one thing going wrong will be enough to wipe all of them out, which is probably what is going to happen to my colony over here, because I'm not being particularly careful. So the only reason in this game that we cannot take forever is that the materials we are using up to maintain all this infrastructure. So for instance, this solar panel, if you want to maintain it and clear it of Martian dust, you can see that these are clean and those are not. This dust actually builds up super fast and is super fine, so it's really super damaging. So they've implemented this mechanic where you need to repair them using rare metals. So that's something that you cannot get just from Mars. This is a resource. Oh no, these just use normal metals, right? But these things like machine parts and polymers, electronics and stuff, which we are going to need to repair. For instance, this concrete extractor, because that came pre-packed from Earth, and it has a limited number of generic replacement parts. Which these we cannot make on Mars. So the idea behind machine parts is that you really need humans in a factory to be sure that they actually work. You can't pack too many of them. You can't fill your rocket only with them, and they're prone to going wrong. As I'm gonna have a tank here to store my water, because I'm producing too much, I suspect, with a pipe going to it. All right, and this is now a fuel refinery. Good, so it's producing 12 fuel per day, and the rocket needs 100. So at this current rate, we're gonna have humans on here literally in forever. It's gonna take ages. Right, so at 12 per day, no, another 8 days. So again, if we had gone here with more funding, we could have packed a lot more of these things, like lots of fuel refineries, And we could get this done a lot faster. Plus, if you have enough funding, you have more than one rocket. So it's quite unfortunate. You can click here on the rocket resupply screen. We cannot send any rocket because we only have one. So you're just gonna have to go back and forth, and that takes absolute ages. Alright, so in the meantime we can keep scanning. Let's go over here. And I think my exploring ship is gonna keep analyzing stuff. And the research is also very, very slow. So we only have 100. It takes 10 days to research my robotics acceleration. It's gonna take 15 more days to get this extra funding. But hey, and you also have the option to outsource. So what this does is you trade money for a boost in research, which is exactly how research works. So the more money you throw at it, the faster it will get done. That is completely realistic. But in this case, we really can't afford. We couldn't even afford it if we wanted to, because that's all the money we have left. So no, we need to keep this money to buy extra resupply stuff from Earth, because these machinery pieces and electronics and stuff we really cannot get from Mars at this point. The only moment when we will be able to get them from Mars is when we have people actually making them. But until then, we're gonna need to resupply, which is a problem. So the question is, are we gonna resupply first so that we can get more polymers and electronics and get this to a bigger scale before the people arrive? Or are we gonna get the people first and hope that they can make them fast enough for the maintenance? And that's not a problem I had when I did this on easy. So you had plenty of resources at the start so that you could bring the people, set up factories, and everything would be fine. But now we really have to pick if we get people first or if we get more supplies first, considering that flying the rocket back and forth is going to be expensive too, and it will take a long time, and it will take a lot of fuel. But I just don't think we can get all the things we need here for a livable environment with only 2 polymers and 4 electronics. That's not going to be possible. So I think when this rocket is refueled, I'll send it to Earth, and I'll just pack it full of these rare resources.
Research complete. Anomaly analyzed.
Research complete. Load. What? Oh, cool. That just completed the research for us. For free. So I guess we found. It just gave us a boost in research. So the scientists saw this anomaly, and they were super excited, and they worked super hard. And for some reason, that helped them develop a better low-gravity drive. I'm not gonna complain. And make a ton of progress on our funding campaign. Yeah. No, that's good. I'm happy with that. Alright, so what else are we gonna need? Let's see how the batteries are doing. They are storing not very much. I think we're gonna need more power than this in the long run. But there's not much point building that now. I think that will be fine. Does anything need maintenance? A lot of this game is in the later stages, in easy mode. There was mostly a lot of maintenance to be done. And this tower is supposed to okay. Alright, so what else do we need? We are gonna need some oxygen. Alright, so we have this this here.
Sector scanned. Select a sector to scan.
This here water tank. It is currently empty because we are producing 1 water out of this and consuming this water entirely for fuel. So since we want to keep producing fuel even when people are here, we're going to need to produce a lot more water. Now I'm not sure. Yeah, we cannot build more moisturizers. Moisturizers. It would be good if you could moisturize the entire atmosphere. No, we cannot build any more evaporators because we don't have the technology yet. Now I see why I should have landed closer to water. Because this is an easy water extraction that we can actually build. But this one is not. So that's going to be a problem. So I guess if we want more water, we're gonna need to move towards this side and store water. So how are we gonna do that? I think I don't need to do that now. I think when I get this this rocket back, when I resupply it the first time from Earth, I can land it over here, and then I can expand this area and get the water from that side and build a dome over here after this rocket comes back. So it's currently at 18 out of 100, but I can speed that up. Yeah, and the machine parts are going down as we are maintaining stuff. So that's really the hard limit, that we need to refuel the rocket so it can go back and get more machine parts before all our things degrade and we can't repair them anymore. And these batteries, I'm noticing, need polymers. We only have 2 polymers left. So I guess when we run out of polymers, we will only be able to work by day. Oh, I guess we have the wind turbines now. No, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. It's mostly the machine parts which are gonna be a problem, I suspect. Alright. So, what more do we need if we want people around? So, oxygen. That is good. We can maintain it with metals, and it produces air and uses up electricity. So we can start stockpiling oxygen already. So that's something to do while all the fuel is being made. I cannot make any.
Sector scan.
I cannot make fuel
Select
any
the
faster
sector
because
to
we're just
scan.
limited by this one vaporizer. But we can start making oxygen. I'm gonna make it over here. I'm gonna extend in this direction. Let's make this here. You can move out of the way. And let's get an oxygen tank next to it. And some cables. Right, so extracting oxygen and water from the atmosphere is really not a particularly big problem. I think that part is fine. I think I'm gonna speed up now. So that's the problem. I can see that the concrete is already becoming depleted, but it's okay because this concrete is also in range. That's all gonna be okay. We are gonna be okay. We are gonna be okay. As long as we can get the fuel up in here before all our infrastructure degrades, we're gonna be very slow in colonizing Mars. But it's gonna be fine, as I'm gonna speed up time. Right, so as I was saying, in this scenario we are not colonizing Mars for scientific interest or because the people of the Earth voted for it and paid taxes or anything fancy and positive like that. No, this company is just doing it because they can. The problem with doing it just because you can is that you're gonna run out of money pretty fast, and there are things that we're not gonna be able to get from Mars itself, so we're gonna need, in the long run, continuing funding. So a government can do that, and a company cannot really. So it's vital, in this case, for a private company, that they're actually profitable. So they have to worry about profit. So there's a number of ways you can do this. I think in this game, the main way you make money is by gathering materials that you cannot find on Earth, and you sell them at a high price. That was the whole point of the research we saw earlier. Because the type of soil and the type of atmosphere on Mars are so different from Earth, you get materials formed that are just really hard to find on Earth, or impossible to make even. So rare oxides, rare metals like platinum and silicon, which we are running out of on Earth really slowly. Right, so that's so one way to make money is to just sell these for profit. There are other ways in the game to make money. So for example, this research is like basically social media. That we're currently researching now is Mars crowdfunding. Right, so we are putting all our scientists, instead of doing actual research and changing the world, they are just pandering to the public and saying, fund us please. And in only 15 days, they're gonna gather $1 billion. That's pretty successful crowdfunding. I don't think it actually works like this in real life. And then one other way of making money, which I saw in a previous version of the game, is that you can have like space tourists or very rich people, and they bring like business
Sector
and
scan.
tourism.
Select a sector to scan.
That's fine. So this, for instance, is a deposit of rare metals, which are delicate, I guess, because for some reason in this game they have to be gathered by humans. So you need humans working in mines, which I think is just a bit contrived to make the gameplay more interesting. Because if these drones can gather normal metals, and if they can construct and assemble all this stuff, there's no reason they couldn't be able to extract like metals from underground as well. I think that's a bit. You could make a mine completely automated with the level of AI that we have seen these guys have. So you can see that nothing much is happening. Yeah, because it's very slow. Because I am so low on resources in difficult. I'm playing this on high difficulty. I am really limited by how fast I can refuel the rocket. I guess if I did this again, knowing this, I would land close to water. But the problem is you really need concrete. Concrete you cannot get from any other building. Water you can get from a moisturizer. Now the problem is I could only build one. So it's extremely important that I land in range of both water and concrete. Which is a bit awkward, but if I play this again when I inevitably fail, I will have to be more careful. Maybe if I land this a bit more left, a bit more up, like just a bit, that would be okay. Actually, I'm gonna try a thing. I'm gonna move this. Where is my my hub? Hub. You're a hub. Yes, you're a hub. You carry drones. You can go over here. Come on. Come on. Alright, so it's carrying all the drones. Oh no, wait. There's a different problem. There's a different problem that I'm not sure I can build fuel refineries. Let's see. So even if I get water, I cannot have more than one fuel refinery. Because that's a prefab as well. So I had to pack that already made from Earth. So that's gonna be the main problem. Then it means that this rate is the maximum rate at which I can refuel this rocket. It's 12 per day. So that's really putting a limit on how much stuff I need to get done. So I don't even need to do anything. That's the only thing I really need to get done. I'm trying to not waste any resources on repairing these batteries, because this can run just off the wind turbines. I just have to wait. And this is not even filling, so this oxygen tank is getting filled slowly. It's almost half full. Right, but there's not very much I can do. Actually, let's see what the requirements are for a dome. A ton of concrete, metals and polymers. So I don't have enough metals. I don't really have enough concrete yet. Okay. Right, so metals, think reasonably realistically. Metals are gatherable from the surface, but they're very dispersed. They're a bit everywhere. You don't really find one big location of them, unless you. Okay, very slow. Unless you actually make a mine and actually dig under the ground, you're not gonna find like a lot of metals in one place like you might find concrete. They're a lot more rare. Right, so I've driven my drones over here with this local hub, so they can start storing these metals in the depot. And actually, if I'm not doing anything anyway, I think as soon as I have enough metals, I will start constructing the dome, just because it takes absolutely forever. It takes absolutely forever to build this fucking dome. Right, so it's gonna be around here. Right, so I'm gonna make it here. And then with my next rocket I'm gonna land here. I'm gonna extract this water and feed it straight into the dome. No, backwards, because then I can have the oxygen from this side and land here, and yeah, okay. Good. That's just because it takes a long time. I'm not actually planning to have this dome online and wasting energy or anything. Okay. Alright, so okay, look at it. Look at these little guys go. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. And we haven't even been destroyed by meteors yet. This is going fine. This is fine. This is a happy drone community. So it's an AI-only society. And it's very efficient. Everything is just being done. Nice and predictable. Easy. So I'm gonna keep this online because it's gathering concrete for the dome, which is just being assembled really slow, but I don't really care. That's used up all our remaining polymers. Probably a bad move in retrospect. Although I don't need polymers for the fuel refinery, so I don't really give a shit. That should be fine. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about money making. So tourism was a way. So the tourists are ready to pay more to just to visit Mars. They're not really interested in making a life here. So if you can just get one on a rocket, he will generate revenue for you just by being famous, basically. Yeah, which is reasonably realistic. There are companies starting to offer that for orbital flights on Earth. It's a very real problem of funding. I think this is really illustrated. Playing this game on easy and on hard, I really get the feel that this is really what the difference would be. It just takes longer. You start with less technology, you have to rely more on the things you get from Earth, but at the same time it's harder to get things from Earth because you only have one rocket. And everything is just like slightly harder. Like not great. Okay. And my tank is full, so I'm gonna turn it offline because I don't need this right now. And the concrete depot will... it's very shit concrete apparently. It's like grade very low. So, but it's not even nearly depleted yet, so that's fine too. Right, so these little drones have gathered all these metals. I'm gonna make them travel a bit. Where are metals? That's metals over there. That's metals. Okay. That's very far from my depot. How many metals have I got? Not many. Yeah, this is harder. I like that they've done a difficulty in this game not by the amount of resources you get, so the actual landing sites and the ratio of concrete to water to where the metals are, that doesn't change, which is what it should be. So the difficulty is entirely set by how many resources you have on Earth before you even leave. I think that's a clever way of doing it. Because Mars is just Mars. What makes it hard to colonize is not what it is or isn't. Although, of course, the ratios of metals and how easy they are to get and the concrete and all that, so they had to be very loose with that. It's not realistic in a down-to-earth sense. Like I said earlier with the concrete, it's not realistic compared to the rates at which you get them. There is obviously a scaling between an in-game day and what would actually happen. I think at least 6 months. I think a day of progress in the game would take at least 6 months in real life. And if you do it with low resources, this is really showing you that it's going to take absolutely forever. It's going to take so much longer doing it with low resources that you might as well just wait on Earth, get better technology, build more rockets, and then do it, and get your habitat done in a year or two, rather than starting when you're not ready yet. So I really don't need a water tower because it's not being filled with anything, it's just becoming used. I'm going to need to repair this eventually. And the dome construction has pretty much stopped. So they've put all the metals that it needs, enough metals, all the polymers we had. And it's slowly harvesting concrete. Alright, so I think I'm gonna leave it here for today. I'm gonna speed this up just until the rocket is refueled. And I will see you guys when I continue. So, thank you for watching, and bye!